Hi, welcome to the Catholic Corner. I'm Monsignor Walter Nolan. Today we're going to discuss the importance of child safety and keeping the children in the care of church ministries and programs absolutely safe. My guests work in the Diocese of Trenton Office of Child and Youth Protection and are responsible for all adults who work with children to undergo criminal background checks and a safe environment training through a program called Virtus. They also oversee a program to educate children in the diocese called Teaching, Touching, Safety Program and the Victims Assistance Program. Joe Bianchi is the Director of Administrative Services and Executive Director of the Office of Child and Youth Protection. Joe holds a bachelor's degree in Business Administration from Montclair State University and has earned his SPHR from the Human Resource Certification Institute. For the past 15 and a half years, Joe's been on the staff here at the Diocese of Trenton in our pastoral office. As an SPHR Director of Administrative Services, he oversees the areas of human resources, employee benefits, and insurance. In his role as Executive Director of the Office of Child and Youth Protection, he was responsible for establishing educational programs and procedures with regard to child protection issues. In 2004, he helped to implement the Virtus training program for all adults who come in contact with youth and children in parishes, schools, and other diocesan organizations. Joe and his wife Sharon reside in Toms River, New Jersey, and are the parents of 2 grown sons. Joe, welcome to the Catholic Corner.
Thank you, Monsignor.
It's a marvelous background you have. I hope I got everything in there that was supposed to get in there for you.
Seems like a lot to do.
It's okay. Margaret Zeminski. Margaret, you were a student at Notre Dame when I was there.
Yes, I was, Monsignor.
God love you. God bless you. Margaret is the Child Protection Coordinator for the Diocese of Trenton, a graduate of Notre Dame High School, and is a diocesan certified director of religious education and youth minister. Margaret presents workshops, courses, retreats, and training seminars throughout our diocese. Her professional ministry enfolds adult education and praxis and has included administrative positions in parishes. She also is a master facilitator with the Virtus program and serves as a consultant of our diocesan priests and religious communities. For the past 10 years, Margaret works in the area of child sexual abuse prevention, and healing has included training facilitators, developing and implementing curricula, and retreat programs, not only for adults, but for children as well. Margaret and her husband Rich reside in Ewing Township, and are the parents of 3 grown children, and have been blessed with 2 grandchildren. You know, I must say this, that I always say this, Joe, that when I see I call them the kids that I used to know and teach, now all of a sudden they're grandparents. Wow, what a blessing. But where does the time go? And how come I don't get older?
You look great, Monsignor.
Margaret's also, though, the DRE at St. George Parish in Titusville and is an active parishioner at the Church of St. Anne's in Lawrenceville. Joe and Margaret, welcome to the Catholic Corner.
Thank you, Monsignor.
Boy, you're both
you,
doing an awful lot of things, for people that look so young and vibrant. And but let's talk about this. Tell me about this Office of Child Protection. When was it established? What's its purpose?
Monsignor, the office was established in 2003. Right after the charter, the bishop's charter was developed and implemented. We then began our work in the Diocese of Trenton, carrying on the excellent work that went before us, but we started with 2 areas that was brought to us. First, it was criminal background checks, where we looked into the background of employees and volunteers that had significant contact with children. The second was an educational part, what you've heard referred to as the Virtus, or the Teaching, Touching, Safety. At that time, I was fortunate enough that Margaret had just joined my team, and I thought she'd be an excellent person, and the 10 years has proved it right. And Margaret is responsible for these programs and makes them work so well within the diocese. I'm very happy that she's on the staff.
So, Margaret, tell me a little bit about how you accepted that position.
It was kind of a fluke at the time. I was working at St. Michael's Church as the director of religious ed, and we started implementing the background checks, and Monsignor at the time in Ascenzi said, well, you're in charge of the volunteers, you handle it. And then the position came open in Joe's office, and I applied for it and got it and have been happy there ever since.
So for the adults, there are two parts to the process, giving them the clearance to work with the children. One is the criminal background check, and all adults, they have to consent to that check.
They do. They do.
And tell me a little bit about what does that mean? How do you do it? Does it have to every 6 months, every 5 years? How does it work?
Close with the 5 years. Go ahead,
Close.
Margaret.
They do have to consent to a criminal background check, and in doing so, they let us look at their background. They do have to renew it every 4 years after their initial, their first one. And they really, it really just gives us a parameter to see if they're safe to be around our children, and really give us a better view of who they are. Someone may look great on paper, but sometimes, when we look a little bit deeper, we need to ensure that safety.
But what happens? Suppose I come to you and I say, I'm going to work or something, and you say, okay, you need a criminal background check. I mean, do you do it? Do I go to the police station? What do I have to do?
If you don't mind, Joe, if you get your form, you get your form from your parish. They're all coded for the parishes. And you're asked to go to an agency, which is the third-party vendor for the New Jersey State Police and the FBI. And that's what we look at. We look at the New Jersey records and the FBI records, and they're cleared through the New Jersey State Police. And they'll let us know whether this person is cleared against the public law that's looked at, or whether there's disqualifiers against that.
Now, is that done, Margaret and Joe, just by fingerprints, or do they do other things? I'm assuming that fingerprints can track us down pretty well these days. But is there any other things that has to happen if someone applies for this?
It's largely the fingerprints, and then we get a report. We don't know.
Is that a national search kind of thing, or is it in New Jersey? I mean, would they do a background check that says this person has never been in trouble in New Jersey, or does this go statewide and all the different states in the country? So if somebody did something out in California, it would come up on this
right.
check.
For us in the state of New Jersey, we're one of 11 states that have access to the FBI database when we do run fingerprint analysis. So yes, we are able to do a nationwide fingerprint search of all records across the country.
Okay, Margaret and Joe, then who makes the decision? In other words, something comes up and says, maybe, I don't know, I'm saying this now, bounces back and said, so-and-so didn't clear. What are you looking for in this? I mean, supposing somebody, I don't know, did something 10 years ago and got into a little bit of trouble. Does that mean they can never work with children, or is this the sexual things? Is it they were in a fight? Is it they drank too much?
Good questions. We actually offer the candidate the opportunity to meet with us, and we invite them in if they wish to meet. We don't know what the issue is when the report comes back.
Okay.
We just know there was an issue, and then we have a team that meets with them, Margaret, myself, and another priest in the diocese, and we sit down and we discuss the background. Margaret, why don't you tell a little bit about some of our experience with that?
With what we call an appeal process, we really do look at when the offense occurred. What was the offense? Is it something that happens all the time? We really want to, as I say in the appeal meetings, we're a forgiving church, we're a merciful church. And just because you have something on your record doesn't mean that you can't minister with children. But we really want to scrutinize what that offense is, and if it will put a danger in harm's way, then we do ask that individual not to continue in their ministry. So it really depends. Everything's looked at on a case-by-case basis.
So the most important thing, just right here, is that safety of the children.
Safety of the children,
Safety of the
absolutely,
children.
Monsignor.
And if there's any doubt at all, the safety of the children comes first.
Comes absolutely first. Many times we'll come across something that happened many years ago, and it was of a minor nature, a shoplifting or something like that. And we work with the person and we make them feel at ease, and we let them know they're welcome because they've turned their life around. Maybe they've gotten married, had a family, and they want to coach Little League or basketball. And it's very understandable. They've had a clean background for so long, and there's no danger to the children.
But does that come up, just so I'm clear on it, does that come up in the report, or does that come from them talking to you, and or can then you go back to the FBI or somebody and say, You know, is this a class A, B, C, whatever you...
They have to produce their criminal record to us.
Okay.
We get a letter back stating that there's a conviction or there's something on the record that is against the public law that they look at. And they're asked to get a copy of their criminal record and present it to all of us, and actually kind of explain the circumstances behind it. And really, you know, so we had a better understanding of what happened. And until they present it, they're not allowed to be in ministry. They're asked to be removed until, and it's their choice if they want to present that information or not. You know, we would never say, well, you have to. It's really up to them whether or not they want to disclose.
If they don't, then you just say that's
Thank you
where it
so
is.
much for your work so far, and we can no longer allow you to be part
Are
of
there
the
some
program.
things, Margaret and Joe, that even if they happened a while ago, you just say that's an area that is now disqualifies you?
There are absolute disqualifiers, Monsignor, yes.
I would think that there are
Right.
some situations that you're going to have to just simply
Correct.
say, sorry, but but and yet we could be a forgiving church, and yet say to somebody, you know, for whatever reason, we can forgive and pray and hopefully heal, but we also have to take care of those children. Absolutely.
Right.
Wonderful.
And we try to do it as respectfully as possible and respectful for the privacy and dignity of the person
Yeah.
that's come to us.
You know, there's an expression I use sometimes in Catholic circles that we recognize Jesus in the breaking of the bread, you know, the communion, but we also must recognize him in the breaking of hearts. Except just sometimes recognizing doesn't mean that even if someone has done something that broke a heart, we got to be careful that we don't break any more hearts.
Exactly.
And yet
Exactly.
we want to somehow realize that somebody can be prayed for and blessed and
Exactly.
so who's subject? Everybody's subject to this. Anybody's going to work with children has to go through this.
Correct. Anyone who has regular, ongoing contact with our children are subject to criminal background checks, absolutely. And it really just, our priests, our deacons, our seminarians are all required to go. I mean, our Boy Scout leaders that are in the parish, our coaches, religious ed teachers, school
So
teachers.
that was my next question. How do you define working with children?
Regular contact. You have to be able to build a relationship of trust. And seeing someone on a continual basis builds that relationship of trust. And that's what we hope that our coaches and our teachers have, our parent volunteers have with these kids. The kids feel that they can trust them and know who they are. But in the same sense, it's when that trust is violated, when something bad happens.
Sure. And we can't tolerate that know-how.
No.
And yet, we all know, looking back, that teachers, coaches, et cetera, have influenced a lot of lives.
They have.
Exactly.
I mean, we all can tell stories about. I can tell if we had a 2-hour show here. I could tell about priests in high school and how how they influence you, and you're very blessed that someone has coached you or taught you in areas apart from parenting, so to speak.
Well
But that's
said. That's well said. So we are so blessed. I mean, I used to play sports as a young boy a very long time ago, and many coaches were so wonderful and helped me do better and go on to college, and we are blessed. You're right, Monsignor.
Well, I think there are things we learn in the bands and in the class, outside the classroom, that you never learn in the classroom, so to speak. Socialization, and it's very, very important. What agencies do you use to conduct these? You said the FBI, the state police,
Right.
anybody else, or are they? I mean,
They're the
they
two
sound
primary.
to me like they're good enough for
They're
me.
two
So
primary ones.
They're the primary ones, yes.
I say they're the people I've been associated with in those agencies are just marvelous, marvelous human beings. Is there a cost to this? I mean, you can't do these things for nothing, and who pays the fees?
There's a little cost, and I believe, Margaret, the parish pays in most cases, but many times the volunteer incurs the cost themselves.
They do. Our parishes, according to our policies with the diocese, are required to reimburse because they are volunteers and they are giving of their time and talent. But a lot of our volunteers and employees are wonderful, and they say, you know what, I don't need the money back. Just leave it in the church coffers and use it for another program, which is wonderful of them to do that.
It's amazing. I shouldn't say amazing, but people are so generous in all walks of life. It's just amazing how they do wanna help, whether it's parishes and or sport teams or whatever. It's just a nice thing, and I hope a lot of the young people that are listening start to realize that it's their turn to step up a little bit, because they're the next in line.
Exactly.
The second part of clearing someone to work with children is this virtuous training, which maybe takes a little bit longer than a background check as far as just putting your thumb down.
A little bit.
Tell me a little bit about this virtuous training and why is that important and what does that entail?
You've really done a lot of work with that over the years.
I have, and thank you, Joe.
Marge is a master facilitator.
So I trained
the master student, so why shouldn't she be the master facilitator?
We adopted the Virtues Protecting God's Children program in 2004, and our first facilitators were trained in the summer of that year. It's a 3-hour awareness session that really gives anyone who attends, not just our volunteers who work with children. We've had a lot of parents, a lot of grandparents, a lot of people outside the boundaries of our ministries that have come to our programs, and it really does give everyone the educational tools to spot unacceptable behavior, whether it's from a sexual offender or if it's a predator in our midst or someone who just really wants to spend more time with kids, but really see where it's appropriate and where it's not appropriate. So it's a 3-hour live training with a video presentation and large group discussion, which really gets people talking about this subject.
We're going to have them now monthly at the Chancery office. We have one Thursday night because we want to make sure that everyone that needs to go has a place to go. They're usually done out in the parishes, but we wanted to add this, and Margaret's going to handle each one herself at the Chancery.
So is that an add-on to the program in the parish, or is that just something that...
We always want to make sure that there's enough available, enough programs, because between people's family life, their work schedules, they sometimes can't get to the one at their local parish. So we want to make sure we have an opportunity offering another session out there for them.
And once they take that, these 3 hours, is there follow-ups to that, or do they have to do anything else? Or again, is that every year they have to go through this, or how often does this happen?
Pretty much, I think, they do it the one time, the 3-hour session, which is a long time, They really don't have to go back and attend another session unless they really feel they need a refresher course. Our priests are asked to read online training bulletins. Our facilitators absolutely have to keep up with training since they're giving the information to our participants. So we don't ask our volunteers and employees at this time to continue an online training program.
It sounds to me, though, that the program is so effective because lots of people have their eyes and their ears kind of tuned to the safety of children and the safety of adults, in a sense, because everybody's involved, and it's nice to know that. Or I would imagine that sometimes, if you know the boundaries, you can say to somebody, "Excuse me, we don't do that."
Right.
So it would even stop anything that would even start.
Right. And a lot of times people, they're just afraid to have that conversation or to walk up to somebody. But I have found, doing Virtus for 10 years, that people are more apt to do that now and really ask those questions, and not be afraid to walk up to somebody and say, "Are you really allowed to do that? Should you be taking pictures with your cell phone? I don't know if that's appropriate." And really asking those questions of other people.
And we want parents to ask questions. Yeah. We want parents to be vigilant.
We're in a different age.
Very much so.
At a different age. I mean, I liken some of this to when the printing press first happened. And there was a whole revolution of people learning. Well, now there's a whole new communication system that's out there. How do parents or others know that those working in ministry are in compliance with these requirements? Do you publicize a list, or?
Actually, about 7 years ago, Joe and we created an ID card. And all of our volunteers and our coaches, anyone who ministers with children, who's required to meet the requirements of the charter and the diocese, must wear their ID card at all events that they're at. Anytime they're in ministry, they have to have it on. That way, anybody walking in, whether it's a child or whether it's another adult, knows that this person's allowed to be there. And they, say, okay, if you don't have your badge on, they should be questioned. Are you supposed to be here? Where's your badge?
We want parents to question. The badge even has an expiration date, which means when they have to go for the next background check.
So if I'm coaching the junior basketball team out in I'm wearing a badge of some kind that says, just like in hospitals, et cetera. You go someplace.
Exactly.
I do a little ministry in a hospital now, and people know who you are, and that's marvelous.
Exactly.
Now, besides all this, I understand there's a code of conduct that
Yes.
you have to sign.
Yes.
Tell me about that.
There are 2 codes of conduct. There's one for our priests, deacons, and spiritual directors, but there's also one for our volunteers and employees. And it really just kind of looks at the parameters on how to be respectful of someone else as a human person, how not to, common practice. Don't use alcohol in front of children. Don't belittle a child. Don't humiliate a child. Don't hit a child. Always be respectful of your language and how you're presenting yourself to be a good Christian example for those little ones that we minister to.
That everyone is God's son or daughter. Mm-hmm. Everyone. And the people have to understand that.
And we want them to understand.
So we hopefully they learn from this all the way up and maybe all the way back down again, so that we understand that we're all beautiful, beautiful gifts of God.
Monsignor, it's interesting you say that, because one of the things I say in my facilitators is I ask the question, who are God's children? And I think as adults we tend to forget that we are all still God's children too.
Yeah. And it's nice to know that we can be, we also, you never stop learning, you never stop growing, you never stop understanding that people are blessed by God. And as I said before, it's not just the breaking of the bread, it's also the God within that's so important for us to realize. We speak English. Lots of folks in our diocese don't speak English. What do you do about that?
We offer the Virtus program in Spanish. It's also available in Korean, in Polish, and Creole if needed. And all of our applications, our forms that we can, are translated into the languages as needed.
Perfect, huh? So everybody's covered.
We try.
How successful do you think the program's been? I mean, do you have numbers of people who have attended this throughout the years?
Actually, we do. I actually looked at it and had to compile some numbers recently. In the last 10 years, we've trained over 190,000 people using the Virtus programs.
190,000?
190,000, and that's just in our little 4 counties. And we've conducted...
We have a lot involved.
We've conducted approximately the same criminal background checks on all of our volunteers. Wow. So...
this training, that's got to cost something too. I mean, this doesn't just happen overnight, and I'm sure there's some research that is done on it. How about that? Does the bishop, does that come out of his?
It's paid for at the
pocket,
chancery.
So
yes, and of course it's a paramount priority to us. And Margaret orders the materials, and we pay for it, and we work with them. And parishes reimburse in some cases; they pay themselves to us. So we try to keep it going.
Well, some parishes can afford a little more than other parishes,
Right,
just
exactly.
by the nature of where they are or
Right.
what kind of a parish they are.
Right.
But that's also part of us helping each other.
There's no cost to attend the training. The training is free. Our facilitators aren't paid to be a facilitator. They're not given a stipend to present the program. They all look at it as a ministry, not as just, another thing I have to do, which I think is wonderful. They really take on the spirit of the program and really look at it that way.
Do you find any hardships to the program? Meaning this, and I'm just kind of thinking back when I was doing some of the work, that there are times when, like, say, college students want to be a part of something, but because of their time in school and their studies, we can't always get them to get checks. I mean, so I'm sure you have a way of making sure that they also attend these sessions.
Well, the policies are written for criminal background checks. They have 30 days from the time they decide they want to volunteer or be employed to get a criminal background check done. And they're able to make their appointment when it's convenient for them at the place where they get their fingerprint scan, which is Morpho Trust USA. And then for the safe environment training, for the Virtus training, we're giving them the parameter of 90 days. So we know there's not always sessions available, which is why we've started the super sessions at the Chancery. But in the same sense, everyone's schedule's busy, and we're cognizant of that, and so we give them 90 days to find a session. So it tends to work out. And what I guide the parishes to say is, if you have someone who you really need, whether it's second grade catechism, whether it's the basketball coach, buddy them up with someone who is in full compliance and make sure that they're keeping eyes on them.
Tell me a little bit about Teaching, Touching, Safety program.
And that's our children's program that we do in all of our religious ed programs, all of our Catholic schools. And it really gives the kids the tools to know where their personal boundaries are. Our kids are so trusting and so loving. And they just want, if there's an adult there to help them out, they really, they accept that without thinking twice about it. But this kind of gives them the rules about who's safe, who's not safe. Should I be accepting this gift or not? Should I keep this secret or not? It really gives them those safety rules and builds on what the parents are already teaching at home.
And I'm assuming that you tell them that there's no secrets. I mean, they got to share with their parents,
Right.
which is a beautiful thing. Not only to share with an adult, but to have that trust with a child and a parent. To say, you know, mom and dad, because I guess every child every once in a while, is afraid to talk to their parent about, I didn't do my homework or something. But to be able to say, mom and dad love you, and we all love the children. We want them to grow up safe. And is there any way that you track the success of this program? And how are the children responding to it? Are they fulfilling it pretty well?
We get good feedback from parents. Many parents I talk to thank us for what we're doing and such. So it's going well.
Yeah, and the kids, I mean, we've had instances since we implemented this program in 2006 where children have actually spoke up about someone saying something not nice and being inappropriate and bringing it to the attention of the supervisor or the director of religious ed or the school principal, and that person being removed from ministry because of the concern the child brought forward, not necessarily the adult.
And sometimes it could be a name that we don't want anybody to be using. What other programs does your office do?
From the Virtus family, we also offer an internet safety program and a bullying program, and they're available to the parishes whenever they want them.
And that's big.
It's
I
huge.
think that's very big. We need another program to talk about some of that, because that's also very big. Joe, if you don't mind, we are kind of speeding along here a little bit, but I know you work closely with the diocesan response team members, Attorney Steve Goodell, and the Victim Assistance Coordinator Maureen Fitzsimmons. How about this aspect of your work?
Yes, Monsignor, in each school, in each parish, we have posters giving the hotline that a victim or a member of a victim's family can call and report an instance of abuse. I monitor that constantly, round the clock, 24/7. And when a call does come in, and thank God we don't get many, but when it comes in, I immediately call the person back, let them know we're here for them, let them know that they have the right to go directly to law enforcement if they wish, and I establish the rapport and let them know that the church cares about them. I immediately then call Steve, advise him of the report. Steve will compile the information and forward it to the appropriate prosecutor for investigation. In addition to that, we have an excellent victims assistance program. Maureen Fitzsimmons is a psychologist, and if the victim wishes, she'll reach out to them and begin the assistance process, making counseling available to them. And Steve, Maureen, and I stay in constant contact, looking at.
So we're very, very, very concerned about everybody that's involved, and we want to heal and bring all of the blessings that we possibly can. We should talk a little bit more about this, but we have to kind of assume here. If you want more information for protecting our children, you can call Margaret at 609-403-7170. Or if you have to report abuse to someone, you may call the diocesan hotline, 888-296-2965. Bless you, we love you, and we pray for you.